We're back.
I was going to say, who are you?
What is going on here? These guys, they're back. They're
like
what?
people.
They are still doing something with everything that's going on. I feel, and this is probably saying a lot, that I have to disclaimer every time that we come on the show about the scheduling. Like, we both have a lot going on in our lives, and maybe that says a lot about like trying to carve out some time on Thursdays again to do this more regularly. But it's genuinely been like, you've been at conference, and then I was sick, and then before that, I think, what we were both just having like a day, and then it's just been, week after week. And also it's from my perspective as like a production perspective, we and I feel like this is kind of opening the hood a little bit, and fine, whatever, welcome. But the for me, something that I realized after we had put together last week's episode, or I say last time's episode 301, we had plans to talk about things that were beyond just the AI music. But as we went on with that, and I think my thought process on this started to develop as we were talking about this, but I didn't really fully articulate it until after the show had gone live. We didn't do anything special for episode 300. Like, not in the sense of like, we did a big shebang for 200. We did a revamp of the logo when we had all of our previous guests call in and do this big thing. We didn't do anything special for 300. And so I kind of wanted that musical episode to stand on its own and just live and breathe for a little bit, because it was just us having fun. And I think it was Heidi in the chat last time said we can't push the needle on human factors every single time we do this. But we still had a very interesting discussion about it, and I feel like it was still within the vein of things that we would talk about. And we were testing it, giving it prompts that, we were. So I don't feel bad about the episode at all, but I think the thing about that episode is that it was in some ways special because it was one of my favorite episodes that we've done. Just honestly, like throwing, what was it, disco reggae?
There was a whole lot of stuff going on that was it was a laugh. It was
a good laugh. Yeah. And so in some ways I wanted that to sit. And I wanted the next show that we, put on together to be focused and in a way that maybe that one wasn't. And so we're back. We're tonight. Barry, like I said, has gone out to conference, and you're going to bring us a report on that tonight. We'll talk through some of the questions. It'll be a little bit more focused like we've done in the past, but we're still here to talk human factors. We're going to talk all things human factors. In fact, if you want to join the discussion, I have already this QR code right up here. You can scan to become a live caller. The process is as such. You scan that QR code, or if you're watching on mobile, just take a little screenshot with your phone and then open your Photos app and it'll detect it. And then you join us here. They'll have you give you your name, and then you'll be joining us backstage. I'll see you backstage. You're not going to be here, but as you get backstage, there's a little private chat that you just let us know what you want to talk about. Now, this could be anything. This could be, I don't know. There's probably going to be somebody upset at us talking about something Boeing related, something planes related, something, I don't know what else is going on. The new AI stuff that OpenAI's GPT-4o came out. And then Google did their big presentation. If you have thoughts on those, let us know. You can always also just let us know in the chat here what y'all think about that. We'd be happy to comment on those as well. Thank you, Neil. Yes, I thought that was a fun episode as well. Like I said, we're gonna talk a little bit more about Barry's experience at EHF this year a little bit later on, but I think we're gonna move more into a traditional pre-show than post-show format, just for we're going to go back to our basics here. But that being said, I think we'll kind of mix in a little bit all together. So we'll see how that goes. We'll kind of get back to it. But Barry, it's been a minute since we've all caught up. So in the last month and a half, how have you been? Have you made any more AI songs? What's been going on?
No AI songs. I AI songed myself out on that last episode. So it's been it's been a minute, hasn't it? So we had the CHF AGM where I got to hand over the presidency reins to Dr. Mark Young, which was fun. We now do our AGM online, so it's a nice, quick, sharp. It's about half an hour, 45 minutes. So that was great. Then I then had a bit of time and went to a joint UK US workshop on looking at smart cities of the future, which
Ooh.
was brilliant. It was one of these things where you applied, you got selected for, you didn't get paid for, but it was a joint, like say, US DoD, UK MOD collaboration to look at how you would basically attack a smart city of the future. And we were in the BT building in the central London, and people had flown over from the US, and it was a really fun week, so sort of a sandpit type week, looking at different parts of what this mission would look like. And I was there as an expert in obviously in human factors, but more focused. They were looking at human machine teaming, trust, and brain HCIs, which was stuff we've spoken about on more than one occasion. So that was fun. That was quite cool. And then that took me straight into conference. So I'd done this 1 week in London, then had a weekend where I just needed to try and decompress and all that sort of stuff. So Amanda decided to have a parents visit that weekend. My in-laws. So not so much decompression. Then straight off to the middle of England for our ergonomics conference, and we'll talk about some of the actual papers and stuff that we did there. But some of the big highlights for me was I actually presented on a technical topic for the first time in about 3 years. It must be about 3 years, because we'd been doing obviously other conferencey stuff. So I was like, I need to get a technical paper in and do some more of that. So that was great. Presented on one of my favorite projects of the past couple of years. We also had the awards dinner. And so previously, for the past couple of years, we've done that online because of COVID and stuff. This was the first one we'd had back in person, and I was the host for that. So I got to give out 2 awards to some really quite amazing people. So that was really good fun. And then I guess the other thing I've been doing is I've been podcasting. I've been recording loads of episodes, but also getting more into the shorts. So I've been trying to get, I haven't got it nailed yet, but I've been trying to get at least 1 short a day published. Now, in the same way as what we've done here, some weeks so if I get my stuff together and do my planning on a Sunday, and get it all scheduled in, or maybe on an early Monday morning, then great. And sometimes I can get some stuff done. And I've been playing around with some software that we've tried in the past, didn't quite like, but they've improved it, and I'm now a subscriber to it. So we can chat about that later if you fancy.
Yeah.
And so I mean, in the past month and a half, so I've got 4-5 episodes out recently.
I've seen the feed. You've been pumping those things out.
So that's been quite good fun. It's sort of been quite nice to sit and look at it and go, right, what is it I'm trying to achieve? What is it we're trying to do? And pumping that out, particularly across TikTok and the shorts, so Instagram and YouTube and a bit of Facebook as well, but that doesn't get that much traction. So it's been a lot of that. Oh, and work. Yeah, the work
and
thing.
Work. Yes.
Has certainly been there in many ways. But what about you? What have you done over the past month and a half that since I haven't seen you decided not to talk to me for a while?
Oh yeah, no, that totally wasn't intentional. No, I think the work thing is big, right? There's been a couple big projects at work and some things that might become public soon that I'm excited to share. Maybe we'll see. Stay tuned. But some good progress on a lot of projects there. There's also been I got sick, so that was fun. You know, my son brought home a nice congestion filled sickness from his preschool, and so that was fun to deal with. Let's see what else we. I mean, I feel kind of lame in the sense that like not much has happened, but it's been dealing with well, like I said at the top, it's kind of like letting that episode sit on its own. Part of that was intentional. Part of that was dealing with burnout. And I mean, I don't know if anyone's cracked the code on like how to deal with burnout successfully and re-spark something that you once felt passionate about. Not that I don't feel passionate about this anymore. It's just that there's the overhead I think that I've set up for myself to get to where we were is now no longer sustainable for where I'm at.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to figure out what parts and pieces of that can still be sustainable. The sort of minimum amount of effort for maximum benefit to, you know, that whole effort to
Yeah.
benefit ratio. And again, it's not because I am not passionate about this. It's because I'm burned out. And I think a lot of this came to a head, you know, right after HFES last year. I was kind of on a high coming back from that event, as I'm sure you were coming back from EHF. It's always reinvigorating to go to conference, and maybe that will be what HFES is or Aspire is this year for me. Is sort of that reinvigoration and that passion to drive. And it's kind of like this, we're in this weird year off space right now, which is not really a year off. We're still kind of sustaining, but it's definitely, I'm sensitive to the fact that we're not in producing in the same way that we used to. So I've been thinking about some of that, you know, sort of what the way forward is. Don't know. We'll get there. If anyone's kind of cracked the code on re-sparking that passion, we'll get there. I promise we will get there. It's just a matter of sticking with me through all this stuff. I did a podcast with Heidi. You should see that out sometime. I know you did one as well at some point.
Yep.
You and Kate did one, and I know we're working behind the scenes to get those out. So that's kind of what's been on my plate. So yeah, I mean, that's, you know, keeping up with the news best I can. It's not the same as it used to be. I used to carve out time every Monday night to do it. But, you know, the strange thing is, Barry, and maybe you've noticed this, that when you start like shirking responsibilities from some things, you start changing your lifestyle a little bit. So I've started going to sleep at like 10 p.m.
Mm.
And it's kind of strange. Like, get 10 p.m., wake up at 6, pretty well rested. Kind of strange.
I've sort of gone the other way, only in this past week or so, where Amanda suggested to me that I don't need to have my alarm going off at 6 o'clock. So how about I set it a bit later, and so I've gone for 6:45, which is reasonable, and also allowing myself, because I also have this thing that I want to get up in the morning, I want to go and just basically get ready, get dressed, get to work, and get that underway, so I feel like I've started the day. But I've now got to try and allow myself that ability to say, to get up, or at least to press sleep, and I don't need to be in the office at 7 o'clock in the morning and things like that, in order to do good things. There's some days I do, but that's more rarer than I make myself believe it is. So yes, we're trying to get to bed early, but more so trying to not get up quite as early, and to do more exercise. So this month we've been doing Amanda has done a sponsored thing to walk at least a mile a day. So for our local lifeboat charity. So we've been trying to do that. Now we haven't got it out every day, but we're then trying to make it up by maybe doing 2 miles in other days. And it's fundamentally just trying to get more exercise in, which is always that thing, isn't it? You've got to sleep more, you've got to eat well, you've got to go and do more exercise, which is always just way harder than it sounds, and it shouldn't be. But there is something
Shit.
about allowing yourself to look after yourself a bit. And I'd love to say I've got it nailed and I've got, I'm happy with it and everything, and it couldn't be farther from the truth. But it's that constant thing, isn't it? We've all just got to try and keep battling towards it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things where the work that we do, I don't think we realize all the time we are using the most powerful muscle in our body for our work, and our brain, and we work that out every day, trying to solve these complex problems that people are facing, and it probably goes back to that episode that we did on mental health and mental well-being, in that your mental well-being is just as important as your physical well-being, and if you neglect one, they sort of work in harmony together. And so I'm sure everyone's heard the saying, the healthy mind and healthy body, it's all the same thing. Like they coexist together, they're symbiotic in a lot of ways. And yes, and we're trying to get there. No, I know. I several times this month I've said, like, I just gotta get on a treadmill. And it's like, there's a billion reasons why you can't, and the reasons why you can aren't always necessarily right in front of you. Yeah. Anyway, do you all have thoughts? I see we have quite a few viewers, listeners right now. So if you're hanging out in the chat, let us know what you think. Have you gone to any conferences lately that have just reinvigorated your passion? Have you been working out? Have you been doing anything exciting that you've been working on that you want to let people know about? Type it in the chat, or be a live caller. You can do that right there. We'll get our show started here in just a few minutes. But Barry, I thought of some questions that I could ask you. I wrote them down. I did not send them to you. My apologies.
Preparation.
Basically, they're boilerplate questions about conferences that we've used before in the past, but sort of, how was your experience at the conference, just overall? What's been going on? Key themes that were covered at the conference. I know probably AI is probably a big one. Healthcare probably another big one. What things stood out to you the most in terms of sessions, in terms of speakers? What type of networking and collaboration events were there? What type of workshops? Those types of things. So I'm sure you can speak to a lot of these. My question for you, and this is kind of the pre-show magic. Are there any questions that you want me to ask you that is like a T-ball?
Not really, actually. With what you just said, actually, that will probably cover it, because
Okay.
I've cheated, actually, and I've still got the agenda
Great.
of the conference itself. So I'm going to use that as to basically run through the good things that were going on, because there was a lot there. There was that many papers that they actually put on a fourth track, which was great in some respects, because that means loads of people get to put things there, but it also means there's more I got to miss, which was annoying. But I guess the bit you could ask, if I don't mention it, you could ask about Monday Night Entertainment.
Monday night, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to invoke a separate note here. Hold on. I had sticky notes somewhere. Where did I see? Because I have my notes up, but I want to distinguish my notes from your notes, and I guess I could just like read out the text or something, but I want to make it special. I want to make it here. I'm gonna do it this way. Monday Night Entertainment. I had sticky notes and now I don't know where they went, but I'll just write it here. Monday night. Monday night. Okay. I should be able to remember the rest. Okay. Let's see. What kind of topical things have happened since we last met?
What's been going on?
Did you see the Google and Gemini, or not Google Gemini? Google Gemini, but then also the GPT-4 O.
I haven't seen
Um,
I haven't played with the 4.0 yet. Jim in my office, he has, or at least he was talking about it day before yesterday. I was looking at it, but when you want to sort of, if I dived into that, I probably wouldn't have surfaced for a while. So I was
you
like,
wouldn't come up.
I need to save that for when I've got time to do it.
Yeah, I haven't played with either of them, but I did take time to watch some of the presentations, and the big sort of I don't even want to call it a leap because they've done this before, but selling point or like theme. I don't know how else to say it. Is sort of this live multimodal understanding and comprehension about the world around you. So, in both cases, that they're basically allowing. Well, there's a lot of really cool things happening, but you could take a camera and pan it around the room and say, like, "What are you seeing?" And then you can ask it questions about what it saw. Like, "Hey, do you remember where I put my keys?" Or did you see where I put my keys? And oh yeah, no, your keys were over there, right? Which is kind of cool. You can scan the room, like have AI scan the room for you, and do that. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, which I'd be curious to test out one of these nights, is you in one of Google's new systems, you can load up a bunch of different notes. And get this, Barry, you can actually have it create a podcast for you to be a little bit more entertaining, to digest some of the core concepts contained within the notes. So let's say you and I come together with like a transcript of several different past episodes that we've done, talking about a certain subject, right? Like let's say we do another episode on AI, and we load up all of our transcripts of those as sources to something, and then we also take a news article and say pay a little bit more attention to the news article, keep some of this contextual stuff from the other episodes that they've done and weave that in throughout, right, as discussion points, and maybe some core like human factors AI seminal work, or if there's like a supplemental article that we want to bring in, do that, and they'll create a podcast episode for you based on all those inputs. And here's the really cool thing. Cool. You can actually interact with it as well. So it will create a podcast, and then you just say, "Hey, I want to say something," and then you can ask for clarification on something, and they'll be like, "Oh no, it's like this." It's actually really cool to see, and so I'd be keen to try something like that. Not maybe like a full episode, but like if we wanted to do like a mini thing, on something to, I just need to look into sort of what the redistribution rights on that, or the attribution, that type of thing. I think it probably falls under fair use for us, but I think that'd be really interesting to kind of play around with. It's kind of an interesting application and use case, but the use case that they laid out in the video is like, my son has a bunch of notes from school, and he learns best when he's listening to podcasts. And so, you can set off to AIs to have a conversation about the stuff that's contained within those notes. And then you can interject with like almost like learning conversationally based on those inputs. So, it's kind of cool. I'd be curious to see what that comes back with.
Was that the Gemini one?
That was Gemini.
Because I saw a cool use case for ChatGPT 4.0, which was, and when you dive into a video sort of quarter of the way through and you sort of missed a bit at the beginning, and it was this guy who was stood there with his phone, say outside Buckingham Palace here in the UK, saying, "Hey, is the king home?" And because the royal standard was raised, and then the phone is going, "The royal standard is raised above Buckingham Palace. That means that the king is home. So yes, the king is home." I'm like, but you're looking at it. You can see that. And then he asked another question on what could be seen, and I was like, well, I get what you're doing. Yes, it's recognizing the environment and it's able to answer questions on the environment. That's brilliant. But then he twigged on me because the camera then did the third person one where it showed him actually using it, and he was blind. and he was able to use his ChatGPT 4.0 as his eyes, describing around him what could be seen, and he could interrogate it. And I was like, fantastic use case, love it. Now, there's questions to be asked about what happens if it gets it wrong. Like, is there any traffic coming? No, there isn't any traffic coming. Step out, squish, because there was something coming. Maybe he didn't classify a bike or something like that. But hey, as a starting point of some technology, I was like, actually, that's quite a clever use case to put together. And it would have been better if I'd actually heard the first 15 seconds where I'd recognized the contextualization of it. But no, it was fun. It was an interesting one to see. But still haven't played.
There was some other cool applications. So like thinking about Google Glass coming back, and using this multimodal. It's called Project Astra. I kind of misspoke. They still call it Gemini, but they still call it AI Gemini. But this was called Project Astra, which is what they were talking about. But shoot, I wish I could figure out where I saw that podcast thing. I need to figure that out, because that's the cool one. Anyway, yeah, I think Gemini Tech. Yeah, there's a million things out there right now, but this was introduced at I/O 2 days ago. So
cool. And then I guess the other thing that's happened is there's been ships crashing into bridges.
Everywhere.
And I thought it was interesting listening to the reporting, because obviously when something like happens straight away, you sort of, I don't know about you, but you all set the countdown timer of right, how long is it before it's all down to user error or human error and things like that, and then what that leads to. It didn't take long for that to happen, but what was quite interesting is seeing the container vessel crashing into the bridge, because it's so massive. So the whole thing was not high speed at all. It was, basically the slowest crash in the world, or certainly when it came across on video, it comes across as the slowest crash in the world. The fact that they were able to clear the majority of the bridge, with obviously there was some workers unfortunately lost their lives, but the fact that they cleared the majority of the bridge, the fact that the ship had been able to get a mayday out, they'd recognise that there were out of controls so early on, and things like that. It was a fascinating, and still is a fascinating review into a sort of accident that I don't think anybody truly expected, because it's such a well used waterway. So that was a sad but interesting thing to see and watch how that evolved.
Yeah. I am looking at more information here. This is where some of the prep work that we do before the show probably would not kill us. It looks like it's Learn LM, a new family of generative AI models fine-tuned for learning. It's a collaboration between DeepMind and Google Research. It basically lets you conversationally tutor through the classroom platform. So, everything from making quizzes about things to
well, the quiz thing has existed for a short while, I believe, because my daughter's been using something like this. It might not be this Google version, but there's another one that you push in the information that you want to be quizzed on, and then it'll start asking you questions on it, which is interesting. It's quite a neat application. And, gosh, you can tell I'm not used to doing this late night stuff. I'm yawning all over the place.
I know. Look at that. No, I really want to try out this Google Education thing. See how, because I'm wondering, if it is genuinely for education, how does that change the language model training, and how does it then come back with things that are factual, and know that they're factual, because I know that's been, one of the large challenges of large language models is that they're based on what people say before. And so is it trained on like a deeper set of research papers, and does it weight those with more, um, with more reverence than, say, a Reddit article or something, so it's like, I don't know. I'd be curious to try, and it looks like they're actually selling this as its own like thing.
I was going to say they've got this. The academic paper one looks interesting. So so that's Beyond Learner LM. This is I think what you were talking about earlier about being able to take a research paper and turn it into short audio conversations to generate 2 AI generated voices, to provide overview of key insights from the complex papers. And that looks live now. So
Yeah, what is that called?
Illuminate. Illuminate. Illuminate with Google.
Yeah, see, I think that's let me just take a quick look. Illuminate. Memorable text. Oh, no.
Oh, it's currently private beta, so you have to join a wait list.
Oh.
So,
can you send me a link in chat? I'd love to explore this a little bit more. I'm going to sign up for the beta. Yeah, I think I'm on their fast track program. They know I play around with this stuff all the time, so I think I'm on their fast track for. Oh, attention is all you need. Yeah, this is fantastic. Illuminate with Google. Oh, I see. Got it. Let's use the one that they know we're good with. Okay. I'm going to join the wait list here. We'll see how long.
Yes, I've done that too.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
cool.
Quite... Oh, so they've got some examples by the look of it.
Yeah. I'm looking at the examples right now. Attention is all you need.
Oh, stop. Don't do that straight up. If you... Yeah.
Yeah, see, what's interesting to me is like... So... Part show notes here. Part like show meeting here. Part question for everybody watching. One thing that's interesting to me, and I don't see us ever going away. But I wonder if you could infuse this thing with like multiple sources and be like, this is where Nick's background is, and these are the types of things that he said before, and kind of summarize me on a paper. This is Barry. This is his experiences. This is what he's done. This is summarize Barry on a paper. This is his personality. Can you then make the two AIs in this thing unique personalities and be like, person A is this, person B is this, and they're talking about Article C for this podcast, and give them a white paper about the podcast? I'm curious what all that would do and what it would come back with. And then what you could do is you could take that transcript and then deep fake our voices and make it into an audio thing. And I'm wondering, this could be a fun experiment to perform. Not that we would put this out there for folks to consume without their knowledge, but I would like to do sort of a live reaction to this at some point down the line, kind of similar to what we did with the AI songs, but in a sense, we like pick an article about something that's happened in Human Factors, and see how close it gets to a podcast episode on us, like just as an exploration. We could take a live listen. We could pause it. We could come in and say, oh, Nick would say this and Barry would say that, and they're talking about this thing. I'm wondering how close it could get to the real thing.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I guess it depends. So there's two elements to it. One is, I think, yes, it could definitely do something, and you could see some use. So say we had a week, like we've had a couple of weeks recently where we haven't been able to do it for whatever reason. I was ill, you were ill, etc., etc. And it maybe gets to maybe 3 weeks, and we're like, well, we need to put something out. It could maybe fill a void there to make sure we've still got some content going out. But I guess the flip side of that is
it's no longer our voices. It's no longer us.
It's no longer us, and also it then leads into why are we doing this in the first place? Right. Are we doing this to develop a smorgasbord of content for everybody? Is the content the truly important thing, or is actually the important thing us doing it? For me, it's the fun bit in doing it. And if it just happens to be the people listen, then that's cool. And so getting the balance right between them two, because yes, it is about the content, because you want to put out good quality content, etc., etc. But for me, it's as much in the fun in generating it, as in doing this piece, as it is about actually, what you chuck out there as well. When I do my interviews on 1202, it's as much about having the ability. I mean, I blatantly use it as an excuse to go and talk to people who I probably wouldn't be able to have an excuse to talk to any other way. It's that whole, I want to interview, not mainly because I've been wanting to talk to you for an awfully long time. And that's really quite cool. So, I think this sort of thing, yes, there's definitely an episode there for us to have a go with it and critique it, do maybe let it do half an hour, and then we can come in with, actually, this was good, this was bad, this was indifferent, could you tell, etc., etc. As a review, would it be something that I know, on the likes of TikTok and the other particularly the short form stuff, a lot of that stuff is becoming auto-generated. And it's just not that good to watch. After a while, we've said this about, looking at ChatGPT content. After a while, you get to have it's not necessarily hard and fast, but you get to know what's
you get attuned. You get attuned to the tells of AI.
Yeah. So
and I think what Neil says here in chat is spot on. It could work, but the amount of tuning that would be required would break the value as of now. So yeah, he's right. I mean, there would be so much that would need to go into it as inputs that we would need to fine tune to get it to produce that output. That is just not worth the juice is not worth the squeeze at this time. But as an experiment, I would, and this is short form stuff. I think the exactly, Turing test of pseudo human factors cast. I love it. But I think what this would be is, because this is short form stuff. Like I want to know how short form it is. Is it like 5 minutes? Of a 5-minute conversation? Because I can see that being sort of the limits of AI right now, being able to take things contextually and summarize it and create a conversation around it in that way. I feel like 5 or 10 minutes is probably the limit right now. So I don't think we're going to get full 60-minute conversations of things, but I would be curious to see how close it gets to us if we prime it with our sort of personality. Like if we took like some sort of personality test and just said, and we took the same one and we gave it like a sample transcript of the way that we communicate and sort of the various topics that we've talked about before. I don't know. I'm just curious as to like what it would come back with. So I don't know. That could be a fun experiment to do. One of these days, there would be some prep work that I would need to do ahead of time to get it to the point where we could demo that live on the show. But I think that could be fun to get kind of a live reaction to that. Noticing that we are about 39 minutes in, we should probably talk EHF, yeah?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So, well, here, hold on. Before you do that, let me kill the music and do the intro so that way it's proper. And I can just
wow. Okay.
I know we're getting back to that. Hold on. They switched everything up on us, so I'm still finding out where everything is. Okay. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
A proper intro. I don't even know who we are anymore. Welcome to Human Factors Cast. This is episode 302. We're recording this live on May 16th, 2024. Like I said, this is Human Factors Cast. I'm your host, Nick Rome. I'm joined today by Mr. Barry Kirby.
Hello there. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute, and it's been a minute since we've done a proper show intro. We kind of just hit record and gone with it, but we're back. We got an awesome show for you. I think we're going to talk a little bit about Barry's experience at EHF, yeah, let's get into the EHF stuff. Barry, do you have anything going on over at 1202 that you wanna promote though?
So at 1202, we've been doing, whilst we haven't been doing as much on here, I've certainly been doing episodes over there. So I think there's probably at least 3 or 4 episodes that have come out since we've been having a small hiatus. So I've been talking to National Air Traffic Services about human factors in air traffic control. I've been looking at cyber human vulnerability with Laura Bishop and looking about how they do that from, or they look at some insights about how we look at vulnerability from an industry perspective. We have a thing in the UK called the Clinical Human Factors Group, which is a group that's came together to look at basically look how we can better promote human factors in clinical settings. And so we have the program manager, Dawn Benson, having a chat with her. And then the most recent one is looking at the issue of human factors in healthcare, but looking at it from a transatlantic nature. And so I've been talking to Ken Catchpole, who's worked on both sides of the pond. He's currently out in the US and has been for a number of years. And really was really nice to have a discussion with him about all things about human factors on both sides. But I was particularly keen to understand, given the two, and it's something we've spoken about in the past, the two delivery mechanisms. So obviously in the US, it's an insurance-based mechanism. In the UK, it is more of a socialized medicine delivery mechanism, so free at the point of care, free at the point of use. And I sort of had a bit of a hypothesis in my head that actually, you know, the problems are going to be different because the mechanisms are different and the hierarchies are different and that type of thing. And Ken very quickly disabused me of that notion that the problems have absolutely the problems over there are very similar to the problems we have in the UK. And actually this mechanism about how we pay for it doesn't really factor in the way that I thought it would. So that was brilliant. That was an absolutely fascinating discussion. So that was out there now. And I've been trying to push a lot more stuff about bringing a lot of the older content that we've done in past seasons out in short form. And so pushing that out on where I've got some of the older video where I maybe recorded people with on Teams, say, or Zoom rather than another platform. And never published that as in video content. I'm now trying to look to see if we can resurrect some of that. And then we've got some really interesting. I've been doing some proper prep work because I've got the next 3 episodes already lined up and in the bag. So yeah, it's been a busy time, but it's been good because I've been able to focus on it and actually try and get some decent content and spend a bit time or more time in production than I usually would.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the update on that. I'm very curious to dive in a little bit more. I've been seeing the shorts pop up on my feed, so I've been watching those, but haven't had the time to sit down and listen to the longer form stuff. So maybe I should take a note and do that myself. But yeah, we're here to talk today about EHF. So you have, well, let's say, what is EHF? So EHF, this is what the Chartered Institute of Ergonomics Human Factors official conference, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah. So it's our annual conference, and normally a 2-day official program, but we normally have a third day up front that allows people to get there. in the past couple of years, we've run a series of sort of master classes, and then in the past couple of years in particular, we've then added a careers day into that as well. So if we've had companies come along on that first day, we did it 2 years ago, and then we did go along this year, but we didn't exhibit, to allow people to come along and see what career in human factors looks like, and then also to be able to go off and into the master classes. Some of the master classes we were looking at this year is things like predictive workload, safety culture. Steve Shorrock, who we've spoken about in the past, talked about that. Risk assessment and prospective risk assessment with Paul Salmon, who, if you remember, you interviewed him a couple of years ago at HFES, and things like that. So they're quite a novel new thing. So it's not a lecture, it's not it's not a paper as such. It's a workshop sharing best practice, which is fantastic.
That's cool. So this was actually kind of a historic one. This was what, 75 years?
This year is the 75th anniversary of the Ergonomics Society. So it was not the CIHF to begin with. It was the Ergonomics Society in 1949 when it started off. It's evolved a little bit, so it went from the Ergonomics Society to the Institute of Ergonomics and Human Factors a bunch of years ago. I don't know exactly when that was, and then I think it was about in 2012, something like that. It then became a chartered institute, so we got the Royal Charter, and so that then turned it into the Chartered Institute of Ergonomics and Human Factors. And so this year, yes, this was the historic conference, but then also later on this year, we were actually having a festival, effectively, in Derby, in the museum at Derby, where we're having an exhibition of all things human factors. So everything from some practical views on things that have been made, things that really show off the value of human factors and things. So there's a lot going to be going on this year.
That's very cool.
Because of that. So yes, we had the theme of the 75th running kind of all through the conference, and this, I think, was also exemplified in the number of papers and the number of things that we have. Normally, we have 3 tracks within the conference of presentations. This year, because so many people applied and the quality was high, that the conference team decided, right, well, we're going to put on a 4th track then. And so we had 4 tracks, which on the one hand is brilliant, because if you want to get in there, you want to present, or you want to have, you want to listen to a whole bunch of papers on your favorite subject or new subject, then there's lots of choice there. We had everything from nuclear, defense, road, rail, maritime, construction. There was decent numbers of papers in each of these, and we had 2 days of solid papers, which was fantastic fun. So yeah, so we had a whole bunch of that. On the Monday, obviously, like I said, we had this masterclass in the evening on the Monday. Then
I have a special note here. Tell me what Monday night entertainment means.
So on Monday night, like I set that up. So normally what happens, obviously you've got 2 evenings, haven't you, that you've got to fill with entertainment. The second evening, which I'll come back to, is always the annual dinner. It is a conference dinner. It's the formal one. But the first night is always some sort of quiz or something like that, organized by Tina Worthy, who's the Chief Operating Officer of the CIHF, and she's been around with the Institute for a long time. And she always puts on some sort of quiz or entertainment or something like that. So this year it was this quiz, and basically all we knew was the title of it was "It's All a Big Mystery." And what she did was set up a whole bunch of code breaking type quizzes, which was really good fun. So the first half, it was all trying to do all these things. Now I particularly enjoyed it this year because we won. There was a little practice run, and we won that, and then we went on and won the big thing. Some people were saying it was a bit of a fix because obviously I was the immediate past president, and was it something like that? And I was like, there's a time to be magnanimous and say I shouldn't be taking part in winning these things, but there's a time to say actually I've got the best team. Because I wasn't really doing much. We had the K Sharp team basically around the table, and so it was a bit of K Sharp and friends, and they were awesome, and we won, and I was very proud of them. So that was cool. that then led on to a magician. So the second half of the entertainment was this magician doing his thing, which was interesting. The tricks were good, but I don't know. I always think that I don't know why, but I think human factors groups, when it comes to things like that, are a tough crowd. Not easily pleased, or quite very inquisitive people trying to work out or get in front of what the tricks are and stuff. So I think anybody who comes to try and do that sort of work with a human factors crowd, you're brave, or you haven't been briefed properly.
I feel like the best trick that he pulled off was he made your presidential status disappear.
Yes, he did that. He did that very well. So
you had longtime listeners of the show know you have a unique perspective on the conference, and an especially unique one this year because you were kind of rounding out your tenure as the president of the Chartered Institute.
Yeah.
And so can you talk through what that experience was like from your perspective? Because I know your perspective is going to be a little bit different, but I feel like you have, not your head in the clouds. You're a little bit more grounded, so you can kind of view it from the every person's perspective as well.
Yeah, so I mean, this is the compare between this year and last year. So last year, as the sitting president, I had to make sure that I didn't have to make sure, other really cool people made sure that everything happened. But I sort of welcomed everybody to the conference on the first day, introduced the keynote, did the same on the second day, and then there was bits and bobs that I had to do. Now, we didn't have the award ceremony last year live, so that was done separately. So that was fine, and that's not normally a role of the sitting president anyway. This year, now technically, I stopped being president at the AGM, which was like sort of the week before, or a couple of weeks before. But this was the point where I could actually hand over the presidential medal to Dr. Mark Young, who's the incoming president, and he's the president now. And so on the one hand, it was quite neat because on that on the Tuesday morning, it was quite nice to stand up, and I got to be the first to after the chief executive to welcome everybody there, and then call Mark up to hand over the presidential medal, and then let him get on with it, knowing I had, certainly from presidential duties, I had no more responsibilities. That was great. But it was still fantastic. There was still a lot of people to talk to and engage with and things like that. What you then go into, so I'm then now the immediate past president, and my responsibilities then were, I had one really more thing to do, which was on that Tuesday evening. So for the Tuesday night entertainment, we had the annual dinner, which is fun, but it's also the annual award ceremony, where we get to congratulate the great and the good for doing really good work. And I'm always kind of blown away by the awards themselves, even before I got sort of involved with them at this level, because, firstly, somebody's got to do some good work in order to be nominated in the first place. Then somebody else has got to go to that effort of thinking, actually, they did some really good work. I'm going to nominate them for an award. Then they've got to find a couple of other people who agree with them to then support the award. There's a lot of work that goes in behind the scenes just to get nominated. Then there's a committee in place that judges all of this stuff, all for somebody to hand over a certificate and a piece of glass or whatever on the night itself. So there's an awful lot of work that goes into what is quite a almost momentary thing, which I always find fascinating, and just the ability to bring an entire community together to celebrate somebody's achievement, I think is fantastic. So last year, as I said, we did this online. because we sort of have done it online since COVID. That was one of them things. So this was quite nice to be able to stand up in front of everybody. We did it sort of in 3 separate rounds. So just before everybody started their dinner, I got to stand up and give out, I think, the first 4 awards. So that was like new ergonomist of the year, student of the year, things like that. And so everybody had to pay attention and be quiet, otherwise they didn't get fed. Because they were,
you hold the food above their head.
Yeah, pretty much. But again, it was brilliant. It was just the ability to drag these people up on stage, basically have the audience recognize the fantastic work that they did, and appreciate what they've done. So did that, and then they have the starter, then I do the next 3 awards, and then they have the main course, then they do the final 3 awards, I think it was. And so in evolving into sort of lifetime achievement awards and things like that. So that was really good fun. So that was kind of being able to almost hold the audience there while we did that. That was brilliant. That I think I was going to say that is normally for a president, that's in a once in a lifetime experience. Having just said that I've done it twice, or that is now my second time for doing that awards. And weirdly, I'm going to be doing it next year as well.
Oh, weird.
Because of it's a bit of a glitch in the matrix, because COVID kind of glitched things up a bit, in the way that we did things. And because we now have the AGM before the conference, we used to have the AGM at the conference, and so the transition between president and past president was immediate. It happened, that was fine. But now it's a couple of weeks earlier, then it kind of messes things up a bit. So we've had to change the rules slightly within the organization to allow the past president who's been in charge of the awards up to this point to then present them, because there was a weird glitchy thing. But to make that happen, we had to make that happen next year.
Right.
And so as president, I was pushing this through the trustee organization, saying we need to do all this. And I was like, hold on a second. This means that I've got to do the awards twice. I've got to do the awards 3 times. And so that's true. So I've this year I see it as now my rehearsal year. Next year I'm going to be amazing. So, but for going forward, it will be a sort of that once in a lifetime experience for president to be able to go and do the handing out of them awards. Which also then meant that once them awards were finished, that because I was very good, I didn't whilst there's a lot of wine consumed at these dinners, I didn't really consume any until I'd done them duties, because I think
make sure that's first.
Yeah, and me falling off the stage or something like that, or just wouldn't go down well, I don't think.
Are you kidding me? That would probably be the highlight. I mean, like, you see that on TikTok or something. I don't know.
Well, thankfully, I don't think anybody was recording video, which was probably a good thing. But I was very proud of my team, because we after the dinner finished, we then hung around a bit. We were having a couple of drinks, and with different people around, people who come join our table and things like that, which was fabulous. I went to bed, or me and Amanda went to bed at something like, because I was presenting the next day anyway. So we went to bed at about 1:30, which I thought was reasonable. We had a brilliant time, lovely time. The rest of my team, or most of my team, a couple of them were presenting at the same time as me. So one was presenting earlier than me, so they'd gone to bed slightly earlier. They were a bit nervous, bless them. So we'd gone to bed at 1:30, and the rest of the team had all stayed up. In the morning, I wake up, check my phone, and there's people still out my team still texting at 4:00 in the morning, and I'm like, even by my standards, that's impressive. And then we then had to go and help them get out of the hotel in time for the to get them out the rooms to hand them back over. But they thoroughly enjoyed themselves, which was fantastic. So so that's all of that's all the social aspects, and then my roles in doing that. And I guess that takes us to the main bit of why people go to conference, the content itself.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you kind of hit all my questions there. It's almost like you're looking at my same notes, but you're not. So I guess the next question on my list here for you is talk about, did you have a chance to really sit down and attend a lot of these things, or was it more like in your role as president or past president, Did you sort of take a look at things more thematically in terms of organizing the tracks, or like how did all that work? Do you have a chance to get down in the trenches?
Yeah, well, I ironically we'll go on to the importance of the word trenches in a moment. But the yes, I quite enjoyed this one because I could go and sit in some of the presentations. I'm quite one of these people. I'm sure we all are, that you sit down when you see the itinerary come up, the program, and you sort of sit there, right? I want to go and see about that topic. I want to go and see about that presentation. I want to go and listen to this person talk. And so we went and did all that. And what I've kind of learned in the past is, as much as all the talk should start and finish at the same time, so you can flip between tracks if you want to, it can be quite hard work unless you really, really want to do it. So I think I picked this up a couple of years ago. What I try and do on the whole is, rather than go and sit in stuff I already know about to try and grow that bit, I go and sit in things that I don't know very much about at all, to try and go and learn almost where I could apply what I do elsewhere, or where can I pick up cool lessons outside of my comfort zone. And so the ones I tried to hit this year, last year it was all about the health. This year I wanted to learn more about rail. I was really interested in the rail side of things. And so looking at the driver attention and alertness was really interesting. And then there was a presentation on the why do train drivers pass red signals, and I think that was done by the Rail Safety Standard Board. And I was just like, why do train drivers pass red signals? Because surely they shouldn't be able to do that. There should be a level of automation in there that says, it's past red. You've gone past a red light. Stop the train. So that was really insightful, I guess, in many ways, of just how much confusion can happen, but also how much control that they have, which is so that was kind of my entire Tuesday morning, sort of two sessions worth, was all about the rail, and thoroughly enjoyed that.
Barry, you didn't answer the question though. Why do they not stop at red lights?
Well, it depends.
Okay.
see what I did there?
Roll credits. Yeah.
So there was there was a whole bunch of different reasons, and I think that was one of the enlightening things for me, is that there was lots of different reasons, but there was not currently a technological solution in place. You're still relying on drivers to do that. Now, there are systems in there that can do some of this, but certainly in the UK, they're just not used in the way that they could be. So that was fascinating. So most of the Tuesday morning was spent doing that, and therefore I missed some sessions which I really wanted to go to. So I'm still intrigued by the whole health thing, as we've talked about in the past. So there was elements around that, and some of the aviation stuff which I didn't get to touch at all, which is normally a thing I like to go and play with. Then what else did we go into then? Oh, we went into look at all sorts of there was a bunch of different things, but it was the AI bit for me that we've talked about before that we get into. So there was some people here. So Chris Baber, who's from the University of Birmingham, Barry Kerwin from Eurocontrol, and it was being chaired by Professor Paul Salmon, who friend of the channel, and then Wen-Chi Lin from Cranfield University. And they had 4 different elements looking at how we're going to apply AI and things like that. But actually, this was almost like a real practical session. So we were looking at user interface designs for explainable AI. So just exactly when you have something presented, how much do you want to drill into it, and how much should it tell you how it got to what it was doing? Then it was around looking at AI challenge in civil aviation. Then a bit around using ChatGPT for doing some analyzing accident investigation. And then the final one by Chris Baber. Chris Baber gave 2 in the same channel, which I think is kind of cheating. But he's done loads of work in this area, and he was talking about how people misinterpret answers from the likes of ChatGPT, so from large language models. And one of the bits that was really interesting was he was highlighting how whenever you see it on LinkedIn or things like that, on TikTok, there was a trend for asking ChatGPT questions and then laughing at the answers when it gets them wrong, particularly like mathematical questions and things like that. And he was sort of highlighting that, because people were trying to use the wrong tool for the wrong job, because ChatGPT is not a calculator. If you want to add up sums, use a calculator. It's a statistical model, so it is quite easy to get 2.2 2 plus 2 equals 5, because a lot of people write that as within text, and it can be within the learning material. Therefore, it could actually learn that 2 plus 2 equals 5. So that whole piece around AI was a lot of it was just thoroughly interesting. It was a real practical look, but fundamentally they were getting to almost a conclusion that we've come to quite a few times, that human factors coming to the AI domain is late to the table, and we need to be doing more about how we apply human factors within the AI domain. So how do we put what we do onto it, but also how do we use it in an effective way? So that was, just going to the rail bit and then into this AI bit made the entire conference worth it for me. And I could have gone home at that point quite happily. Clearly I didn't. We stayed on and did more. So the Wednesday morning stuff. So we don't obviously just had the dinner on the night before. So Wednesday morning, I think everybody was a little bit delicate, which was fine. But this is where Kate Preston, who has been on with us before, she presented her paper on basically some of her PhD work around sepsis fluid management and using an artificial intelligence tool that she'd been reviewing. And so that was cool. That was interesting. Then we got into some of the best bit for me, because there was a defense section. And having said that I don't go to the stuff that I normally that I know about, I had to go to this one because I was the first person presenting. And I give a presentation, going back to you said about being in the trenches. The title of my presentation was Human Factors in the Trenches. And it was all about some work we did a couple of years ago, where we were actually looking at a way of putting military trenches together. And a client had come and asked if we could do some human factors reviews of this innovation that they'd had. And so I sort of delivered this as a bit of a case study. Now, this is the first presentation I've given to conference that there was a proper paper, probably in 2 to 3 years. And so it was quite nice to be back into that mode, and actually just delivering presentation of the work we'd done and enjoying doing it. And I thoroughly did enjoy it. So that was good. It meant that I missed one of the other presentations from one of my team as well, which was a shame. They scheduled us both at the same time. I mean, how rude.
Should really talk to the people who are organizing the event, Barry.
Well, yes, there is a bit of that, and also, but never mind. And then to sort of wrap up this sort of Wednesday, I stayed. I was going to go into dip into one of the things, but actually I stayed in the same defense session, because we had 2 presentations from a chap called Sid Schuttermeyer from BAE Systems. It was all about the future helmet for mounted displays, particularly. So you think that things like F-35 and things like that, and how they work. So they talk about latency and field of view and things like that. And Sid has a real style of presenting that's really engaging, really nice. So it was a joy to stay and listen to them. And sandwiched in between 2 of Sid's presentations was a case study there was an accident where an F-35 jet was lost off the Queen Elizabeth carrier. And Kev Hayes give a presentation on the investigation that happened to work out why this F-35 jet had basically it got to the end of it, been in the catapult, it'd come to take off and just didn't have enough speed. And so right at the last moment, just as the aircraft is on the edge of the deck, the pilot ejected, and the plane was lost into the ocean. Pilot thankfully was fine, but then the investigation about why didn't it have enough power to get off, and could anything have been done about it? So just talking through that entire thing, it actually ended up being a maintenance issue that had happened. One of the covers for the engines hadn't been taken off; it'd been lost inside the air intake, and nobody had realised because of, in hindsight, some very simple errors. But actually, at the time, nobody realised that it was somebody else's problem to look after. So thoroughly interesting, really, really insightful and enjoyable sessions. And so yeah, so that was basic. That was the content. We had some amazing keynotes. So what we call the Donald Broadbent lecture was given by Natasha Merritt from the University of Leeds, and what she was talking about was the interaction between automated vehicles and road users. So when you're crossing the road, if we're going to have these vehicles that are autonomously driven, can we interact with them so we know that they're going to stop in time for us to cross the road or not? And so work that she'd been doing around that was really interesting. And then the institute lecture was given by Amanda Widdowson, where she was talking about enhancing cybersecurity. So how does human factors have a role to play in cybersecurity? So she'd given us an overview of that work. And then the other keynote was by Dr. Neil Spenceley from Glasgow Children's Hospital, and he gave a medical perspective from the application of human factors, and he was talking about human error quite a lot, and the Swiss cheese model, and has is patient safety even a real thing? And he challenged us quite a lot in terms of thinking. So the way he had a real way of delivering his presentation that was more of a conversation than it was a formal presentation as such. Even though it was with slides, the way it was really engaging, and it was a really nice presentation to listen to, which fundamentally I got out of it he sort of challenges us to think that we focus so much on what goes wrong. Something went wrong and something happened, but actually 95% of the time, 99% of the time, things are going right. So why are we not focusing on the stuff that is going right and making sure we're doing more of that?
I can hear Neil in the comments right now. Hey, go check out this effort.
And so that was quite cool. And it was really nice to get somebody who's willing to stand up and say something that challenges you to think. I think it's, and I don't mean to do anybody a disservice, but I think when you come and do these sort of big keynotes, you can. It's easy to go and play it safe. You could go and play to the audience, tell them something that they want to hear, do that. But if you want to go and actually change something or get people to think, you can actually go and do something and challenge the audience, which I think is quite neat. I think he did some of that. So 3 days of lots of intense networking, lots of intense catching up with people. I think one of the reasons I like this conference is I find other conferences hard work. I think your social battery disappears very quickly, especially when you go to a room full of people you don't know and things like that. This conference, I find, there's lots of friendly faces. It's not a hard work conference to do. You can go along, you can have a good time. Nobody's going to give you a hard time unless you stand up and give a keynote that makes people give you a hard time. And I thoroughly enjoyed it, but it was still thoroughly exhausted by the end of it. So come Wednesday night when I got home, I was ready to sleep for like the rest of the week.
I'm sure. So taking a look at like the 50,000 foot view, what were some of the most prevalent topics or themes that you saw kind of popping up across sectors, across tracks? What kind of things stood out to you?
So really the big thing is still healthcare. Healthcare in of itself, as a complete domain, has so much work going on in it by so many fantastic HR practitioners. But there is still something there about them being siloed either by their trust or whatever. The trying to join them together is still a challenge. and there is so much work to do that it still feels that we're diving into some really really deep stuff, but actually still the basics again are not there. We could be doing some really high level stuff, and so I think talking about Kate's presentation sort of led into some of this, where she initially started about wanting to do AI in healthcare and get into some really deep how we could do that, but then realizing that actually the application of AI in hospitals, every hospital runs differently, every healthcare trust runs differently. Some use paper, some use digital, some use a combination of both, some use neither. Some, we don't have a standardization across all of that, and it still seems that this seems to be a common theme now for at least 3 years. So it's going to be a common theme going forward. AI across the board is a big thing. I mean, we talk about it a lot, but this idea about not only how do we advocate for AI, what does it mean to apply human factor standards to the application of artificial intelligence, and whatever in its various guises, and what does that mean? But also, how do we use it? How do we use it as a tool? How do we use it to make our lives as human factors practitioners easier, better, more effective? There was lots of that sort of discussion. The third one, I think we spoke about human factors integration more than I've seen in a while. So the actual bringing in, how do we manage human factors within projects? So we saw a bit of that in rail. We saw a bit of that in aviation. So that was certainly coming more to the fore than what I've seen in the past. I still think we don't talk about HFI enough, about the management of human factors and the way we do it. But that seems to be perhaps changing slightly.
Do you have a favorite moment at the conference? I mean, you can say the whole thing, but like, is there one that stood out to you?
Everything. Yeah, no. I think for me was it has to be the award ceremony, and a particular award in particular. I think for me, there was, like I said, there was fantastic people getting the awards, but one of them, Barry Kerwin is somebody who I've kind of weirdly admired from afar for a long time, but never met him before. But read a lot of his work. I've got books of his, read papers of his, and all this sort of stuff. And he got one of the Lifetime Achievement Awards, and to be able to present that to him and basically I met him sort of face to face earlier on the first day, when he'd stopped me in the corridor, said, "Hi, I'm Barry," and him introducing himself to me, and I was like, dude, he was like, when you meet your idols type thing. And so then to be able to present him an award that night for it was for his work throughout his time was just an experience. It was fantastic. So that was definitely a highlight. And the second one, actually, for me, was being able to present a paper, being able to just get back to the almost the grind bit of doing the fun bit of saying, "Hey, I did some work, and I'm really proud of it, and I really want to tell you about it." Was great. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
That's awesome. So I guess the last question I have for you is, what are you going to take forward with you? Like, what words are still ringing in your head that you're like, I'm going to apply this to all my work?
So that we go back to the rail stuff, I think. Yeah. So for me, a lot of that was learning more about again a domain I don't know much about. And you say about taking it forward, we already are. So we've got meetings coming up in a couple of weeks with some of the people who are presenting, and a university who's heavily into it now, and to try and work out where can we share what we do, because it's not just a case of us going and saying, right, I want to do rail work, find a rail project, because unless you've got some reason to be involved, so what am I bringing to the table? What's my team bringing to the table? Then hey, you've got nowhere to play. But if we can find an opportunity to, based off what we've done here, to engage with some of that would be brilliant, because I thought there were so many different bits of work that were happening. Everything from automated signaling and moving signals from trackside to actually inside the cab, but also then looking at things like how drivers are dealt are treated, and the conditions that they have to work in. Looking at things like, we've talked in the past about culture, but then the culture of the railway industry is different again. And there was some work around wearables as well, which obviously I'm very interested in the wearables side of things. And then the way that the rail industry interacts with other areas. So where we have level crossings, there was some work around why do people still ignore railway crossing signs? When the barriers come down to say there's a train coming, get off the tracks, people still try to cross. So that was all just absolutely fascinating. So yeah, definitely the rail industry for me, this one. And there's some really good papers there, and I won't necessarily pick particular ones out, though the wearables one was really good. I think that was the biggest takeaway for me about the learning something new piece.
Well, I have to say, Barry, I'm rather cross with you for not inviting me. No, I'm just kidding.
You could have come over.
I know it sounds like a great conference. I'm a little bit jealous of the conference, like you're always jealous of HFES, but hopefully we can remedy that in the future. I think I certainly learned a lot talking to you about your experience, and I am very jealous of all the different tracks and experiences that you had there. And I'm especially jealous of the, what was it? Was it Monday Night Entertainment of the yeah, I'm especially jealous of that. I want to do puzzle solving. There's some cool things we can talk about in the post show here, but yeah, let's talk about that in the post show. For I guess for anyone who's interested in EHF or attending maybe next year, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, I would, if you can, do the Monday night as well as the Tuesday night. The what I quite like about the conference is that you get an entire package that covers your accommodation, all your meals and everything. So everything is nicely wrapped in, and therefore, whilst the actual ticket might feel expensive, it's not, because it's got everything in there. So if you can get in and do the lot, absolutely worthwhile. It's worth doing the careers day, even if you're a seasoned professional, because you might chat to some companies who you weren't expecting, or that type of thing. So yeah, but also don't be. I mean, the biggest thing that I've always said when I stand up and welcome people is, don't be afraid to go and say hello to people. I know it can be intimidating to, see a group of people talking. You don't want to go up and say anything because why would they want to speak to you, type thing, or are you butting into some people's conversation? And I feel like I get that. I feel like that all of the time. But for me, this is the one environment where I do feel comfortable in going up and seeing some random people and saying, "Hi, I'm Barry. I do human factors stuff. What do you do?" And learning from people. The people are so open with advice and things like that. It's a good conference to go to, and just go. I think it's if this year is this year was the biggest one we've had so far. Last year was the biggest one we've had so far. So we're clearly on a trajectory. Next year, I believe it's going to be in the same place again, which the whole hotel seems a really good setup. So yeah, just go.
All right. Well, I think that'll wrap it up for today. We're gonna stick around if you're stick around if you're watching live. We're gonna do a post show. If you like this and enjoy some of the discussion around conferences, check out some of our past conference coverage. We've covered everything from HFES, or now Aspire, to EHF from last year, to the Healthcare Symposium. Go listen to all that. Comment wherever you're listening with what you think of the topic this week. We're kind of coming back to basics here, so let us know what you think about the conference coverage. I loved it. For more in-depth discussion, you can always join us on all of our social platforms or our Discord community. Visit our official website, all that stuff. If you like what you hear, you want to support the show, there's a couple options for you. One, you can stop what you're doing, leave us a 5-star review. We'll take any of those. That helps other people find the show. Two, tell your friends about us. That's how we grow. And three, if you have the financial means to and you want to support us on Patreon, we have one of those. You can go support us over there. As always, links to all of our socials and our website are in the description of this episode. Barry, thank you for stopping by and telling the folks about EHF 2024. I had to look down to see what year we're in. Where can folks find you if they want to talk to you about railway safety?
So you can find me on social media pretty much anywhere. Search for Barry Kirby. You'll find me on Twitter or X. Then I'm Baz_K. But I'm on the other platforms as well. And if you want to hear more about discussions with other human factors practitioners, then you'll find me on 1202 The Human Factors Podcast at 1202podcast.com.
As for me, I've been your host, Nick Rome. You can find me on our Discord and across social media at Nick_Rome. Thanks again for tuning in to Human Factors Cast. Until next time.
It
depends. All right. Shorter episode, but hey, I think that went well. Kind of weird to go back to it, right?
It was, yeah. I guess it's not a really bad thing. It gives you a little bit of structure to work with. I think you sort of said this before, getting that balance right between the fun stuff, but what you're going to put out, because actually if you have the start and the end, then it makes your post-production easier as well.
It does. Or well, I mean, I don't know, the last couple shows I've just thrown out the whole thing like wholesale, so it that's another option too. Anyone have anything fun to talk about? You can call us right here. Should I just leave an awkward silence, or should I try to fill the dead air?
Should we just leave it quiet for about 5 minutes and see what anybody does?
You know what? Let's should we just stare deeply? You know what? We both have control over our cameras. You want to just do like the slow zoom in to our eyes while we stare at the camera and just see how uncomfortable it makes people?
I can't do that as easily on my end.
Hold on. Yeah, I have to find my. Hold on. Where's my control?
I could do. If I do this, I'm probably not. Oh, there we go.
Oh, no, yep. That's what I'm talking about right there. Hold on. Wait. Let me get in on this.
How do I get?
Oh,
I
don't know. Uh-oh. Hang on. Are you gonna do one half of the face and I'll do the other half? Because I can't go farther than this. This is as far as I can go.
Oh, really? That's me.
Hold on. Now you got to stare at the camera awkwardly. Just hang on. I got to center my camera again. Over here. Right, I'm right here. Right.
I don't know how I'm going to get the camera.
Wait, did you turn off the eye contact thing?
Yeah, right. So that's why I've got a problem. Which we will talk about in a moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have no AI working on my camera whatsoever.
Ooh. All right, I'm just staring at the camera.
Yeah, I'm trying to work out how to get my camera to go back.
Okay. Hang on, I'll zoom out. So then it'll just be. No, you know what? I'm gonna go down with the ship here. I told you to do this, so I'm gonna stay zoomed in too.
Why want that? Don't do this. Camera hub. There we go.
Okay, I will just. I'm going down with the ship here, Barry. You're. Okay, there you go. Hey, there you go. You're back. All right, here, let me.
That could have been awkward, couldn't it?
Woo! All right. Hey, we're back. Okay.
What's that? Oh, hello. So you can do that.
Oh, hey.
I'm going to blow up my camera in a minute. Yeah, so since I got this new desktop that's meant to be all singing or dancing, I haven't been able to, because it's a short form factor, I can't put a decent graphics card in it. Particularly, specifically an RTX card in it. So I'm having to come up with a solution that might involve, because I got this as a refurb.
Oh, right.
So, which is fine. And then I got a graphics card to go in it and an NVIDIA card to go in it. And I thought that would be fine, but actually it's not. You can't get the rights of NVIDIA card because the power supply, blah, 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 blah. So I think I'm going to have to do something like, at a suitable point, I'm going to spend some money on a decent machine for this setup. because the one in the office is fine. It does what it needs for that. But this, I think I justify a bit of beef considering how much of this type of work we do. So we'll hopefully see that. I guess that's going to be a couple of months. I guess because we've got to save up the pennies to buy it. But yeah, but it means that I don't have any trickery going on.
No trickery. No trickery. That's okay. It's more natural, I think. I don't. Hang on. We have somebody in backstage. Looks like they're on mobile, so I'm gonna bring them in. I chatted in the chat here, but I don't know if they saw it. So I'm gonna bring them in. Hold on. It's okay, friend of the show, so we're okay. I trust friend of the show, Neil. Hey, Neil, what's going on, man?
Gentlemen, how's it going?
Hey, it's going well. What do you want to talk about?
So one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot recently is design for maintainability.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of time and effort that I see companies putting out goes towards the operator as user and less so towards the maintainer. And yet that's really, when you think about it, in terms of a lot of different types of systems, the maintainer is who's going to have a whole lot of contact time, particularly over the lifespan of that system.
Yeah.
And thinking about how we can design the system to have better human factors for them, in my mind, it's a miss.
It can be. I've worked on several projects in the past where the maintainer has been a primary persona of one of the people that we're developing for, alongside every other operator in the system. Have to kind of skirt here as to what those projects were, but I'm sure you can
I have no idea.
I'm sure you can imagine where a maintainer would be just as critical as other sort of players in the system. And so I think that might be more mandated in those types of roles. But I agree that in general, the maintainers or folks that are performing any sort of servicing of the product or service or system are largely ignored.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a bit of an epiphany, I guess, over the past 2 years now. So in a current project, in a similar way, can't really talk about the detail, but I'm actually part of the logistics support team. It's where they put human factors in for this. Which when it first started, I was like, oh, dear God, why am I there? I should be over here. But actually, as much as I still do believe that, I've had a really good education into logistics support, and then therefore a more direct. In fact, some of the task analysis and stuff that we've been doing has more been skewed towards the maintainer because of the influence they're having of what they're doing. So I completely agree, and I think it's only been in the past couple of years that I've been really driven down maintainers are important. You should be doing more about them, which will influence my future projects, I think. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, and I will say, you do sometimes see it more customer by customer in certain areas, but I know one area where I really haven't seen it a lot is in, frankly, commercial and industrial.
Mm.
I mean, unless the product is explicitly developed for maintainers. So, example, the podcast website service that I think Barry you still use and I use is what I would consider built for maintainers. We are maintainers of the podcast itself, and so they do a really good job of including them as the ultimate user when it comes to building this website. But ultimately, the end user of that website would be the people consuming the podcast. But we, the producers of that podcast, are, in a sense, the maintainers of the site and the maintainers of the content. And thus, they consider us as some of the primary users as well. So it's a system that's built primarily for us, but then by extension, the listeners or viewers get to consume that content. And so that's what I'm saying. Like the products that are built for the maintainers, I think are kind of the outliers. And I can think of, some good examples of where that is. But you're right. I don't think it's thought of in the same sense of like another kind of counter example is like a social media maintainer of an account. There are these whole third party systems that are sort of built around the maintainer in those systems of social media management as sort of the end user, right? The social media managers that integrate all the different products and services across X and Facebook and everything, because the native tools to each of those systems are not designed with those maintainers in mind, or they're just not as well integrated with everything else. And so I can think of those kind of examples, but you're right. Other than that, I'm kind of drawing blanks here.
I guess one way I've been really surprised is that obviously we're doing a lot of work, a lot of research into green energy production, so your solar, your wind, and things like that. And I naively assumed that because they're such a modern technology, that would have the full breadth of personas in thought about. But when you look at the maintenance of a wind turbine, or the installation process and maintenance of solar panels on roofs and things like that, you think, wow, we just know any of this. It's almost so new that the technology is evolving at a rate of knots. So we're now into house batteries and things like that as well. But it's still being developed in a way that it's almost jury rigged together, to go a bit extreme. And you're right, the maintainer isn't thought about at that point. It's just like, get that solar panel slapped on that roof, get it wired in, Bob's your uncle, away you go, without well, how am I going to maintain these solar panels? Can a normal owner go and clean them if they need it? Can they, if you've got a sandstorm, can they get up on the roof and clean it safely and effectively? And you can't. It's just not going to happen. So, yeah, no, I think we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, or like down here in Florida, where we have the occasional big storms. And what if an owner wanted to get up on the roof just to see, okay, are they still intact or not?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or if you're in places like Canada and stuff, where the snow, you get massive amounts of snowfall and stuff like that. How do you make sure that they are effective? Do you need to be going up and scraping them off, or will the inbuilt heaters? Because apparently it's one of these things that the inbuilt heaters that you can get with them regularly fail, because they've been put on as a bit of an afterthought. So how can they go and check that that they're done in a safe way, short of throwing a drone up there, which would be my preferred solution, obviously.
And the way I've been talking about this has been from the perspective of somebody whose job it is to do it. And you bring up some good points of like the people who are the consumers of this product can be the maintainers in some cases too. And I wonder how some of this stuff will change with the right to repair movement kind of taking off and sort of, having the right to maintain your own devices. Or maintain your own products or services, depending on what type of right to repair we're talking about. But then I also wonder how like planned obsolescence plays into all this as well. And how,
yes.
Yeah, you got something to say on that, Neil?
Well, I think a lot of times companies may not put as much thought towards it because they're banking in terms of the whole business model on being able to handle more of that maintenance. But, when you look at companies, and I don't know if y'all have seen any of those videos from the Tesla Cybertruck and the hood,
the fingers,
or as I like to call it, the finger remover 3000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's silent when it goes down. I mean, there's no alerting, apparently. And I mean, I've been in situations where, if that's just a button or a switch inside the vehicle, yeah, somebody might just inadvertently hit that, and I'm sitting down there working on something, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a bad day.
Yeah, it's but I guess I would argue that the Cybertruck in of itself is not a good example of good engineering. It's very
Episode 296 for anyone who wants to get the full conversation on that.
but no, it's an interesting. I mean, there's some bits of play. I saw actually there was another YouTube channel that I saw that on where somebody rigged it with Caterpillar tracks. So basically set Caterpillar tracks on each wheel, and that was phenomenal. Loved that. That was really cool to see. But they had to upgrade everything to be able to cope with the amount of with the torque that was coming through, because obviously it's coming through in a very different way. And then I believe it broke on the mountain, so they had to haul it off anyway. But it looked cool. It looked epic. I'd quite happily have one. Just sat in the driveway, not actually using it. But actually, you also brought up this the right to repair thing, which I thought was interesting, mainly because we had a product recently. I don't know if you must have them out in the States. It's called a meeting owl, and it's basically like a cylindrical sort of thing. It's got a 360-degree speaker. It's got a 360-degree camera at the top, and it's really cool. It's a brilliant piece of kit, and I managed to pick one up secondhand and all that sort of stuff. And we've been using it for over a year. Somebody who shall remain nameless managed to drop it, and yes, it was me. And it didn't really notice it. It got knocked off the table. So I went to pick it up, and I thought, oh, actually, it bounced. It was fine. It was all right. But then when we switched it on next, it was like the 360 camera was fuzzy. I was like, oh, that's a bit weird. So then I looked at it, and you could see because it's basically got the two cameras. This 360 camera had shattered. The lens had shattered on it. So you were just getting through there, and I was like, well, that's irritating, isn't it? Never mind. I'll get in touch with Owl and see if either we can get it, because we really like it as a product. Can we get it repaired? Can we, either could they sell me a lens and I'll take the bits and things myself, or is there a maintenance facility or whatever? Turns out no, it's a throwaway product. At about £1,000 each. They don't repair them. They if it's broken, it's broken. I was, in this day and age, I was shocked and stunned, and my wallet was very hurting. We can still sort of use it, but yeah, it's not what it was. And so yeah, that wasn't cool.
Not at all.
That's enough for me,
Man.
I have a different story where it's so the right to repair issue, I think here in the States has been more sort of around, you open up something, and because you've opened it up, you voided any warranty with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, there are certain things that you can tinker on, but other things that you can't without voiding the warranty. And for me, the most recent example I had of this was a broken PlayStation 5 controller. It had like some drift on one of the sticks. And so the interesting thing around this is like the process itself is not difficult. You follow a YouTube video, and you might feel like you're breaking it in some moments when you like snap off the thing, but then like once you get down into all the like chippy parts, it's like, okay, well if you've built a PC or something, it's not too difficult to understand how they all come together, and taking off the ribbon, putting it back, making sure it all functions. But the part that I think was interesting to me is there was like these I didn't manage to fix the problem, but the thing that was interesting to me is that I didn't actually void the warranty by going that deep into it. I would have voided the warranty if I had like scratched off a sticker on a separate part of it. And I wonder if that's what you're talking about there, Neil, with sort of the company's intent to, if it needs to be repaired, or this part is like tricky to repair or is going to be really expensive to repair, that they control that and they sort of bring it back to them, to the parent company to fix that. And I just thought that was interesting, that like some things are you can get in there and mess around with and some things you can't. And where that, and me as a maintainer in that situation, that was not easy to do, but I followed a YouTube video and was able to do it. And so, is that training? I don't know. It's not something I do every day, but when I opened it up, it wasn't terribly difficult. So I don't know. I'm just kind of spouting out ideas here, but I thought that was an interesting thing to think about.
In terms of kind of the defense side of things, a lot of times they look at maintainability in terms of O level or organization level. So right there with the team, or if they have to send it into depot or D level. And then they also have another step too, and then they actually have, based on whatever it is you're talking about, is this more an O level maintenance thing, or does it have to go to depot, or is it just remove, replace, and you send it off? And, I think that would be a very interesting model for more companies of consumer products to look at in terms of, hey, because, let's start just enabling folks to do a bit more of this if they're going to be doing it anyways, and just say, okay, yeah, this is something you can do, this, no issues. Like if you're going to change your oil filter or air filter, that of course, typically not a problem on most cars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, what else is okay? Or if I do this, is this problematic? And just spell it out. And it's not to say that the individual can't do it. It's just, okay, yeah, if you do this and something happens, we're hold harmless.
Yep. You're the one who decided to unscrew that bolt there, not us.
Yep.
It's interesting also seeing with the evolution technology what you're expected to be able to do. So particularly on cars, since you bring up the oil filter, I think I have an interesting relationship with headlamp bulbs. And historically on almost any car, you'd be expected to change your headlamp bulb because it'll go and you'll be able to do it. Now it's obviously, it always used to be the all-in-one, now that you get them split out. And then obviously now we evolve into most the LED as well. But the Renault cars in particular got to this bit that you would still have normal headlamp bulbs, but the ability to try and change it was so incredibly difficult. You had to basically break your arm in 3 places to get them round the certain bits to be able to get these bits off. But they were still keen that you could still change it without taking headlamps out. Then I had a Ford Kuga, which to change the headlamp bulb in that, you had to take the entire light assembly out of the car, which unscrewing the whole thing and pulling it all forward and hanging it off the car. Which I was like, wow, you're either assuming that the mean time between failure of your light headlamp bulb is now so long that this is now a non-common task. Whereas obviously now with the Mustang that I've got, we had to get the rear headlamp, the rear light changed because one sector had gone on, whatever, and that was a garage job. I couldn't do that on my own because of the nature of the parts, because of the nature of what it was. Whereas historically, you'd expect to be able to do that. So I'm wondering whether with the way we're designing things now, is the things that we'd historically expect to be able to do, we're now not able to do because the analysis of how long things should fail means that they can design things to be more complicated, or not have to worry about maintenance of it, because once it goes into the garage, that's somebody else's problem. You have to train tech for that. Whereas my approach to it would be, right, this turns it into a non-common task. Even to go in the garage, they're not going to get that many of them in. Surely we should be designing to make it easy to change these things, because of the nature of what it is. You'd think so,
right.
But I think that's true.
Well, and also if it goes into the garage and it's still complicated, that's going to up your labor cost because it's going to take longer to do.
Yes, and you probably needed more skilled tech to do it, because they need to have the experience. And certainly with the way we've got with electric cars at the moment in the UK, they're still not common. So you've got to get that one person who is skilled at doing that, make sure that they're not on another job, make sure that they're not off sick or on holiday or anything like that, to be able to get through these jobs. So and to have the right kit to do it, because even one thing I'm finding with changing tires on an EV, well, EVs are so heavy that you can't just chuck them on a normal rack. They have very specific lifting points. So if they don't have exactly the right sort of lift, but the tire maintainer, the tire engineer, has to know that what they don't know. Whereas normally, historically, you chuck a lift anywhere on a chassis, it's going to lift it, it's going to be fine. You do that with an EV, and chances are you're going to ruin a battery pack and go straight through a battery set. So yes, technology is great until it needs something else.
I've been inspired, you guys. So as we're here sitting talking planned obsolescence, I got a song for us. I said, create a children's song about designing a system for a maintainer in a world of products designed for planned obsolescence. So here we can take a look, and I think this is probably a good place to round out for today. So let's play this song, and then we'll kind of wrap up for the day. All right, let's hit play here.
World of stuff that's made to break. We gotta find a way for a system's sake. Designing for forever, it's what we're gonna do. Making things that last for me and you. No more throwaway, no more goodbye. Let's build a world where things won't die. A system for the maintainer. What a clever plan, fixing and repairing. We'll lend a helping hand. The power of design is in our reach. Create something strong like a mighty beach. No trend obsolescence, we're breaking free. Forever and ever, that's the way it should be.
All right. I stayed away from it for the entire show. I figured I owed us at least one. All right. All right. Well, with that, Neil, do you want to let the people know of anything before we drop off here?
No, I actually have nothing really to add.
All right. Well, thanks, Neil, for calling in. So glad you were here to join us for the tail end of this. We're going to send you backstage, so feel free to drop. As for Barry and myself, I think we're just about wrapping up here. So we'll kind of get the administrative stuff out of the way. Where are you, Barry? What are you? This one? No, wait. You're this one? Is this you?
Yeah,
That's you. That's you. Got to get it all back here. All right. Well, as we're wrapping up for today, just want to thank all of you for joining us in the chat, and Neil for joining us on stream. Really, really appreciate the lively discussion. That was a great discussion about planned obsolescence and designing for maintainers, and probably worth finding a story on that at some point to bring in for a full show.
And Neil's also done this thing now. He's seen how easy it is to come on and chat with us.
Exactly.
He'll come back and do it again, isn't he?
So y'all have no excuse. And in the meantime, if you want to leave us a voicemail with any interesting prompts that you want us to talk about, you can do that right here. Bring it up on next time show. Hopefully it's next week. We'll see if there's no other outstanding things in our way. Trying to get back to some semblance of regularity here. Yeah. All right. You already let the people know where they could find you, Barry. Anything else exciting you got going on here over the next?
No, just work and stuff. I'm actually we'll be talking about smart towns and smart cities at some point in the future, because we're doing a lot of work around that, and that's actually proving really human factors approach to smart towns and smart cities. That's proving fun.
Very cool. Yeah, I've actually been. I think the last thing I'll leave with is kind of like a positive note. I've been buried in work, but I think it's been a positive thing that's kind of there's been a project that I've been working on lately that's kind of ignited the passion I have for human factors.
Cool.
So that's a positive thing. It took a while to get there with any new job, but I think it's some exciting work. So with that, if you want to leave us a voicemail, do that here. If you want to call in next time, we will put the link up next time. If you want to support the show and all that stuff, there's a Patreon here. Scan it, do whatever. And if you want to reach out and hang out with us in the meantime, there's plenty of opportunities to do that. As we wind down for the day, I think that's about it from our end. You can reach us in any of the channels. Anything else, Barry? How do we usually sign these things off? I forget. We usually say it depends for the show, but what do we do for post-show?
We normally say, I'm really tired, I'm going to bed, and I'll see you next time.
Okay. You're really tired. You're going to bed. You'll see us next time.
I will do.
I'm really tired. It's 4:00 here, so I'm gonna go to bed too. And see y'all next time.
See you later.